The Mount Rushmore of WWE male superstars from the 2010s. Big thank you to C Nation Dog who put in the request for this video. So this one is for you and for everyone watching right now. If you want to make a suggestion of what you want to see on the Mount Rushmore series, let us know your suggestions now in the comments below. But myself and NXSteve are in the hot seat. 4 spots available of who is going to be from the 2010s to fill the Mount Rushmore. For me, 9 names immediately came to the mind along with The Miz. And for me, I had to try and figure out who I was going to put in those spots. But I'm interested to know who's going to be in your selections as well. So let's start off with you, NXSteve, for who's going to be your #1 spot on the Mount Rushmore for male wrestlers from the 2010s.
I'm going to start with my most controversial answer. I'm
Nice.
going to say CM Punk. I think that aside from everything that happened, the whole storyline that he had with Triple H and the way it blurred the line between shoot and kayfabe, it was a period of time in wrestling where everyone was just like so intrigued by it. Like it drew so many people in, and the fact that obviously everything that goes, like, bearing in mind he come off like a record-setting run as champion at the start of the 2010s as well, but then for him to leave and for him to be just commonly chanted by the crowd, like everyone would chant CM Punk for the next like 9 years. And I'm sorry, but if you have an ability to do that with a wrestling crowd where they chant your name for 9 years and you're not there, dude, I think that justifies him being in the Mount Rushmore of the 2010s.
Well, if it's controversial, then controversial it is. For me, I also have CM Punk in my Mount Rushmore. And I've got to say, you summed it up there. Like, even when he's not around, he's the guy that's discussed for a lot of the time. He's away from wrestling for a long time. But the time he was in WWE and was on screen for us, obviously 2010, obviously he was part of the Straight Edge Society. So, a SmackDown stable thing, perhaps maybe a niche thing that people look back and go, oh, I loved that back in the time. But then he became the mainstream. He became the best in the world. He was the guy that was going to walk out the company with the WWE Championship and Money in the Bank. And my goodness, he did it. And he created a buzz when he did so a few weeks earlier as well, after the infamous pipe bomb. A pipe bomb that was so big that people were getting back into wrestling that hadn't been watching for years, and it was all down to CM Punk breaking the mold as well of the indie wrestler. Literally all the indie darlings that you see now got through into WWE and got to the top of the card thanks to someone like a CM Punk who was the first there to do it. So yeah, for me, CM Punk has to be on that Mount Rushmore.
The fact as well is that, just to add quickly, that anytime anyone drops a controversial promo, it's known as a pipe bomb. And if you can set a cornerstone of wrestling, and you can have something named after something you've done, like, he has to be on that list as well.
Yeah, he sure does. And I think that some may see it's controversial. For me, I think it's justified. And and biased as well. I'm a big CM Punk fan, so of course he's going to be on the Mount Rushmore. Who's going to be your second choice?
Daniel Bryan. The guy had the best run I've ever seen in a natural rise from an underdog to a main event star. And then when he goes on to then complete the miracle on Bourbon Street and he wins at WrestleMania, and like he overcomes all the odds, he beats Triple H, he gets in that triple threat, everything that happens in the build to that, in again another person that like is just sets that decade apart as one of the most captivating stories of the decade. So for me, I'm going to have to say Daniel Bryan is my number 2.
I like it as your number 2, Joe. I hated myself a little bit that I didn't put him in the 4. I was trying to find a way to get Bryan in there, because you think about your favorite wrestlers from that time period, and like you say, Daniel Bryan for me, he had to retire for a couple of years, but the joy when he came back as well, and having great matches with the likes of The Fiend, Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble, main eventing WrestleMania with Edge and Roman Reigns. He's had some fantastic matches throughout. AJ Styles, a great series as well. But you go back to the start of the decade, like you said, the rise that he had there, going through winning Money in the Bank, then winning the World Heavyweight Championship, of course in controversial fashion, and a few seconds after the Big Show, I think, won the title from Mark Henry. But that led into the No Chance, which then led into the Yes Chance and all that sort of stuff. Team Hell No with Kane, Dr. Shelby, followed by then, like you said, the rise then to the Miracle on Bourbon Street before, unfortunately, injuries started setting in. But for me, Daniel Bryan was a ray of light, just enjoyed his work so much through that time, and definitely he was. He wanted to prove that he was one of the best wrestlers in the world during that decade. Like you said, so organic as well. I'm annoyed he's not in there, but for me, but I'm happy he's in there for you. At least he's made it on there for somebody.
Like I said, even the comeback from being fired as well. Like this guy was fired by the company to come back and then still become that star as well. Just he has to be on there for me.
Absolutely, with the infamous debut of the Nexus on Monday Night Raw. And I've got to just say as well how charming it is to have a Daniel Bryan beard on the Mount Rushmore as well. I think that's just has to be done. But I'll go with my second choice then. And look, he's not going to be the most popular choice in the world, but he was the face of WWE. Of course, it's John Cena. Look, John Cena was the guy throughout the noughties and the 2010s, certainly for the first half of the 2010s, was pretty much in almost every single main event of every pay-per-view. We talked about CM Punk even being the champion on a record long run of 434 days. Usually was not main eventing a lot of those shows as the champion. It was still John Cena. Even when he would face John Laurinaitis, he would still main event a pay-per-view. So John Cena just was that guy. He'd been in some major main events. Obviously, talking about the lights who against The Rock as well. He had a big rivalry with Batista, I think, in 2010. Obviously, Brock Lesnar took him out of the main event scene in 2014. But he still would be a big reason to help establish stars like Roman Reigns, for example, get themselves over in 2017. Well, John did try and bury him on the mic a little bit, but still, John did put him over when it came to do business in the match. But John Cena, for me, he's just, arguably, he's called the greatest of all time. It's been put in our heads, and this was in a decade that he was still doing some of his strongest work, including that United States Championship Open Challenge, which, of course, is still remembered by many fondly to this day.
Yeah, dude, he is actually my number 4. He was my one that I denied about the most, and it's kind of like, just to back off what you said, if the guy is the face of the company for 2 decades, he is the modern day Hogan, he kind of needs to be on that Mount Rushmore. Like he was like he's the one I teeted over most, but I thought it'd be stupid not to have him in there. So yeah, John Cena actually is my number 4th pick.
There you go. Interesting. Well, I mean, the thing is, technically, then you give him 3 picks, so I suppose I should go in with the 3rd pick as well.
Go for it.
You can't do one without the other. Randy Orton was a top guy when we started the decade, was a top guy when you ended the decade. I mean, Randy Orton has gone on to win 14 World Championships, and he's won a number of them in that decade. You look as well with the rivalry of Christian, for example, back in 2011. Many remember fondly with that one more match. Of course, you mentioned about the infamous Daniel Bryan rise. Randy Orton was the chosen one for the authority for a period before Seth became that chosen one. Obviously, Randy Orton going against Daniel Bryan in that main event of that WrestleMania at WrestleMania 30. The killer match with the RKO with Seth at WrestleMania 31, probably arguably the best RKO ever. The other one was Evan Bourne, which of course again was in this decade also. He goes to team with the Wyatts as well at one point during it also. So Randy's been there and done everything. He's, you name it, every title. Randy Orton has done everything there is to do in WWE, and pretty much most of it was done during the 2010s. He even won a Royal Rumble as well in 2017. So how can I not put the Viper in there?
He was the one I was teetering between him and John Cena. I think for me there is one other guy that does get in there above him, unfortunately. But yeah, like just as back off what you said, dude, the guy he's done everything, and he was a mainstay. A lot of people, he would probably be a lot of people's number 1 pick for the Mount Rushmore. But I just thought I think it's too easy to pick Randy Orton, which is why I went elsewhere. I had to pick between Randy or John, and it's John is the modern day, like I said, Hogan. He's the face of the company. I had to pick him over Randy, but he is a good pick otherwise.
Absolutely. Well, you have one more pick available. Have to choose it wisely.
The biggest rising star of the 2010s has to be the architect, the Messiah, Seth freaking Rollins. The dude has his debut in the Shield. He rises up to become the main star in the company. He has story after story after story. He is arguably the best cash-in of all time at WrestleMania. The guy is, a lot of people say, the modern equivalent of Shawn Michaels. So I'd be stupid not to pick Seth Rollins, man. Like I said, he's like I said, he was the biggest rising star of that decade for me. And like I said, he's still around today, and it's kind of like it all starts in the 2010s.
I mean, for me, obviously, I'm going to be honest and say I am that stupid guy that didn't put him in there. He's an honorary mention for me. It's so difficult to narrow this down to four, this category. CD, you've done us in on this one. But yeah, I mean, Seth Rollins, like you said, the architect, heist of the century, first member of the Shield as well to win the WWE Championship. Obviously, won the United States Championship at the same time as well in 2015. You know, he turned on his brothers as well. And like you said, he's done so many great things, winning Royal Rumbles, winning world titles, a great in-ring performer as well. But I had to go with another member of the Shield to take the full spot. Now, he has not done his best work in the 2010s. He's not done his best work in the 2010s, but you cannot ignore the amounts of WrestleMania main events he has had, and he was the one that WWE wanted to push so much. And I know it's controversial. Look, I'm not a fan of it either. Going into 2020, he was feuding with Dog Food and Baron Corbin, but still, Roman Reigns has got to go on that Mount Rushmore. Look, I could go from the honorable mentions quickly and say some of my favorites I wanted to put there. I would have loved to put Daniel Bryan there. I would have loved to put Seth there. Dean Ambrose was the other member of the Shield that doesn't get his spot in there. AJ Styles, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, has had one of the best runs in the company, especially from when he came in for 2016 for the rest of that decade. Bray Wyatt would be a great choice for many people as well. And you wouldn't argue against it with the, you know, the character work, the cult-like figure, the reinvention of the Fiend, the fact that, you know, people just would get behind that technology and that character. And look, people won't like it, but Brock Lesnar is another one. He ended the streak. He went and destroyed and took John Cena out of the main event scene. He was the guy that was the part-time champion and held the title for a long time. He would respectively be in that spot as well. But for me, I've gone with Roman Reigns because Roman was the selected one to go for the top spot. He didn't really achieve it and do his best work until probably the 2020s, but still, he's been in major programs. He's been in some really good matches, despite the fact that the booking hasn't always been the best point of it. But he has also been in countless WrestleMania main events, and for me, it just can't be ignored, even if it's not the most popular decision.
No, I respect it, but I can't agree with it, man. I just like he doesn't. For me, he doesn't earn that plethora until he gets into the 2020s and the bloodline begins. And like you said it a little while ago, John Cena even ripped him on promos, man. So I understand what you're saying, but I honestly couldn't pick him. I mean, the only other honorable mention I would say, if he didn't say him, was The Undertaker. Start of the 2010s, obviously having some killer WrestleMania matches, and was like obviously a massive star, and that's the only other one I want to mention, really. But I'm honestly genuinely shocked you picked Roman Reigns, dude.
I mean, yeah, I know that there are, the thing is, in that era, you're either a Roman fan or you're not. I wasn't the biggest Roman fan, if I'm being brutally honest, but at the same time, when you look back over it, you can't ignore the in-ring work. And the thing is as well, he was pointed into that direction, and you know, he was told and fed to say those lines. You know, he went and did the best he could for the ability of the promo side of things, but in ring, a lot of the time he always delivered. It's just the fact that he was shoved down people's throats, which is why I think a lot of people rejected him that time. But I think this is the strongest argument I can quickly just say about Roman Reigns, because like you said, his best work has been from the 2020s. But I would say pre-2010s Roman Reigns makes the Mount Rushmore for that decade. 2020s Roman Reigns has an argument to make the Mount Rushmore of all time.
Oh, that's a good shout. I like it. Yeah, like I said, you make a good argument for it, dude. It's like that is the most controversial answer you've probably given tonight. Like we said John Cena, we said CM Punk, but man, that's pretty controversial. I mean, don't get me wrong, if he'd have won the Rumble the first time instead of losing it, and then that's when it all turned for me, and they really start forcing him down our throat. So I can see what you're saying, but very controversial answer, I believe.
Controversy creates cash, and hopefully it creates likes. Certainly, I think it will create some comments. Who is your Mount Rushmore male wrestlers from the 2010s? This is going to be a juicy one to read in the comments, so make sure to get involved as well. And if you're enjoying this series, like we said, you can throw your suggestions in the comments below what you would like to see. Our next one that will be on this channel, look, we've done the male wrestlers. Let's do the female wrestlers from the 2010s. That will be episode 4 of the Mount Rushmore. But you can go and see this playlist now on the side of your screen, which features the whole series so far, episodes 1 and 2, including Hell in a Cell matches and who are the best male wrestlers from the black and gold NXT era. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. Thanks for NXSteve. Take care. We'll see you for the next video.